Hi, my name's Patty Henning and we're at Fabulous Finishes again for another episode of Shelby DIY. And today we are going to work with these aged papers that we carry at the store here. There's, oh gosh, probably thousands of designs that are available. We don't have all of them in the store, but we've got quite a few of them. And they're a lot of fun. You can do some pretty cool stuff with them. You can put them on accessories. We put them on furniture here. This one we did on just this old little kick stool that was at the store. So I did this one up ahead of time so that you can see what we're going to do today with it. This bench here, if you can see, it's pretty beat up. Actually, I had it in the back. We were going to throw it out because stepping on it now, it's a little rickety. But I thought it would be a good one just to kind of dress it up for the holidays with this holiday paper here that we're going to use. And you know, we could stick it out on a front porch. The products that we're using have a sealer that go over them, and it's good for outdoor as well as indoor, so we could put it on the porch and decorate with it. To start with, the first thing you would always do with your projects is to clean your piece well. I already cleaned this with Simple Green. And then last night I did base coat this with one coat because these papers want to be applied on a sealed surface. So I don't just want to go on to this yucky wood. So what I did was I took one coat of this botanical paint. It's everything in one. It bonds to everything. The surface is nice and sealed for the paper. And I used this dahlia color. And then the paper, I'm going to put it on the top, but what I want to do is, because it isn't completely the right size, what I want to do is I want to make it a little bit smaller, just so it looks like it's not supposed to be the right size on purpose. And what you want to do with these papers, instead of just getting scissors out and cutting it with a clean edge so that it looks kind of too new and purposed on your piece, you can just put like a straight edge on the side of your paper and take like a straight screwdriver and score your paper down so that it kind of makes a little ripped edge like this. Okay. And I'm going to do that around all the sides before I adhere it down. And you can use any size of these papers. We carry the 11 by 17s in the store. They seem to work the best for everybody. They do come in larger sizes. They have to be ordered, where you could take one image and pretty much put it on the front of a whole piece of furniture. Sometimes people take these images and you rip them in a couple different pieces and you just position little spots here and there. You can kind of do whatever you want with them. But this gives you an idea here. Makes the paper look a little aged to match the age of the paper. Okay, and then the first thing I want to do is, I don't use Mod Podge. I've tried that with these papers and it's a little too thick for me. I have found that this reclaim sealer that Caramel makes, the same company that makes the paints, the sealer works really nice to get the papers down. And like I said, it's an indoor and an outdoor sealer. So I use it after on the piece as well. And then what I like to do when I'm adhering the paper down is I just add just a little bit of glue. I don't measure it precisely. It's just like a little blob to give it some extra oomph. And then I'm going to mix that up there. Let me just take a brush. And I'm going to want to get this whole top covered. Even where my paper doesn't go, it doesn't matter. And I don't know what we're going to get with this hole in the middle, but I figured it would be fun to just kind of see what happens and work around it. Okay, so I'm going to stick it in there as well. So you give it a good coat. And then I'm going to take my paper and I'm just going to kind of lay it right going to turn this so you guys can see it. I'm going to turn it right, and I'm going to stick it right down. And then immediately, I'm going to take more of my sealer glue mix, and I'm going to go over the whole design. So you want to make sure you have a good coating underneath it so that it'll stick. And you want to make sure it's going over a sealed surface because it won't want to sit down on a piece of raw furniture. And then you want to get this over it real good. All your edges so that they stay down. Now this bench here, this little stool, has a lot of uneven wood. Where typically if you're going over like a dresser drawer or a tabletop, it's smoother. And what you're going to see is you're going to get bubbling and wrinkling. In the paper surface as soon as all of this sealer glue goes on. And what I like to do is I just take like a scraper. You can take like a bendy credit card. And you kind of just lightly pull your paper just to pull out those bubbles and the cracks. And I use my fingers a lot too to kind of just work them out. I don't mind the little squiggly lines, like the crinkles in the paper, because it looks pretty cool. But the big bubbles, you kind of want to work those out. It's just a matter of like pushing them to an end and then letting the air squirt out. And if you really get a bubble that's fighting you, what you can do is just poke a little hole in it and then scrape it and work it out that way. Okay, so this guy looks pretty good. And I'm not going to worry about all this other excess sealer gunk on top because it's just going to dry clear. Okay. And I think what I'm going to do here in the middle, again, I've never done this before, but this is kind of how I'm just going to poke a little hole in the middle there. Because the paper's kind of getting flimsy now because it's wet, so it works nice. And I'm just going to rip it down into that. If you remember, I put some sealer on that little edge as well. So I thought that would be kind of cool if we just bust that hole right out there. Okay. Now that won't take long to dry. And then what I'm going to show you right now, I'm going to go around the side just to get this cleaned up nice. But what I like to do on the tops is I like to use a little bit of either paint or plaster to tie these edges in so it doesn't just look like a small piece of paper stuck on a surface. But we have to wait for this glue to tack up a little bit. And then I have the same botanical paint. This one is actually, the color is called Moss. And again, these paints will go right over everything. Actually, on that other little stool, I mean, I literally painted over the dirty stool. This paint's just fabulous. It dries pretty quick. It levels out nice, and it really doesn't even require a sealer. So it's an easy way to get a fresh look on an old, tired piece. So I'm just going to put some green. You know, you can do whatever you want with these paints. If I want to pull some up here. The botanical paints that came out, they actually were created by the company that makes these papers that we're using on top. What the company did was it aligned with the paint company, Caramel Colors, and it created a special color line that matches and accents a lot of these papers that this company carries. So it's really nice because if you look, that dahlia color ties right into that paper really well, and so does this moss color. I think any of the colors you grab, it seems like they're all in the papers. So it's really nice. They all coordinate really well. Okay, so I'm just going to throw this on there. And again, you could do whatever you wanted on your piece. You could leave it all raw and not painted. This, you can see how old and beat up this is, and it just kind of goes right over it and leaves some of that old texture coming through. Okay. This one here. This paint goes pretty far. You can water this paint down and use it more like a wash. It doesn't come in a whole lot of colors. You can mix them together to make your own color if you'd like. But I think what I really like about it is when it dries, you can't see any of your brush marks, like your application marks, which is pretty nice. So you can go pretty quick, get a little sloppy, and it still looks good. Okay, I think that's about good. I'll leave his inside legs alone. And I'm just going to bring a little bit of the green up on the top. I don't remember if I did that on the other one. Okay, so that looks pretty good. What we're going to do is we're going to take a short break right now so that we can get this little stool, the first phase, drying. And then we will be right back and we'll go to phase 2.
My name is Cheryl Steinhurst. My husband and I are owners of Steiny's Tavern. We're located on the northwest corner of 25 Mile and Shelby Road. We offer a unique dining experience from our restaurant to our off-site catering. Everything we make is from scratch. We utilize Michigan-made products whenever possible. We're open 7 days a week. We offer daily lunch and dinner specials, and we carry the most craft beers on draft in all of Macomb County. So plan on coming out to Steiny's Tavern, where you come for the food and stay for the party.
Hi, we're back, and our bench is dry. Dries nice and clear, and all the paint's dry as well. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use, it's a product called Perfect Plaster by, of course, the same company. We've only got a couple here that we carry, but the products are pretty cool. I like them because they go over anything, so when I need to use them in a pinch, like maybe even on this bench, it's my little go-to guy. He's not a paint. This one's actually like it's like a textured plaster. It's kind of whippy. Actually, it's meant to roll on walls. It gives a really nice finish, easy for people to do if they want just a little bit of texture on their walls. But I like to use it on accessories. I even do it on furniture and stuff as well, because it just changes it up a little bit and everything doesn't look like it's just paint. Here, what I'm going to do is, because I don't like these edges and I want this paper to kind of look like it's just part of the stool, I'm not going to use a brush because it's going to look too planted. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to use this little whiz roller, and I'm just going to kind of random roll a little bit of that texture here and there. And the easiest way to get this down is you just can't think about what you're doing. You know, you can't try to make it all perfect, or it's going to look like you rolled around it with a, you know, like road stripes. It's just kind of a little bit here, a little bit there. And this will dry back more sheer. It's not going to be completely solid and white like this. And what we're going to do is we're just going to put the dryer on it just on low for a little bit to give it like a little flash dry, and then I'll show you how you can actually take that same little scraper and knock that plaster down and blend it so it looks more worn. So I'm just gonna also bring it down. I have some on the plate, so I can use it anywhere I want. You could put it on the whole, you know, we could do a whole leg if we wanted to. I'll do that just to show you. And all this will do is just add another bit of dimension to this old crickety stool. And then instead of just sealing it with the sealer, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a dark wax, because what it'll do is it'll age that real nice and blend in. When you use this on walls, you do actually the same thing. You use this little whiz roller and you roll your first coat on, and what it does is it has these little textured pieces in it, and when it rolls out, I think you could probably see on the plate, it leaves the texture here and there quite random, and you just get one coat on your wall, and then when it dries, you can give it a light little sanding and put a glaze over it, and it's really pretty. Okay, oops, just touched it. I'm going to put this guy on low just for a second. Actually, I'll hold it. Oh, I have to get a scraper. And I'm going to use the same kind of little scraper cards. These work perfect, all these little gift cards that you have. Excuse me. And what I like to do is I like to just get it just a little bit set. It'll take a little while to dry, but if I do that on the top, I'll tip it to show you. And then I take the card and I keep it kind of flat, and I just start to scrape. I can kind of pull it almost like a real thin, like a cake batter. And what it does is it'll bring that little bit of, see how this is already drying right here, it'll bring a little bit of that down into the picture, and it'll make it look like everything was there for a while. I'm just knocking it down, those edges. You don't have to do this, but I kind of like to finish it off this way. And then if you have more of your plaster left, you can do it all down here as well. Knock it all down. And then if you have some left, what you can do is you can bring it back up and add more if there's a spot. Like here, I want a little bit more so I don't see that red edge so much. So I'll put more there, and I can just scrape it. So you can kind of fiddle with it and get it exactly the way you want it. And then this guy will set up. And once he dries, you can just take a little bit of a sandpaper and lightly scuff it. If I want to like bring out some of that raw wood again to my stool. And then you can just either leave it that way, or you can put that reclaim sealer on it, which is a nice, you know, indoor-outdoor sealer. You could really leave it the way it is and it'll weather nicely on its own. The paint's not going to come off. Or, like I said, we'll do a wax. I like to do the wax when I want to get like a color in it, because it does the coloring and the sealing all at the same time. So, okay, what we're going to do is we'll just put this on low just for a minute or two. Okay, so while that's drying, I just wanted to show you some of the other applications that we've done here with the papers, just to get you to think outside the box. This was just an old metal sign that we had, and actually it had faded in the window. So instead of throwing it out, we just took one of the papers. This was a snowman, and cut it exactly to size. So this one fits perfectly, didn't have to do any painting or other techniques on it. Okay, and you can kind of change out your art in your house. This was just a metal star. These are really fun, and here you can see I ripped the paper quite a bit smaller, so I don't have to cover the whole star. I can just stick a piece where I want. And again, you can see the plaster element in this one, where I really used a couple layers of it. Really like how the plaster works. It's just a really pretty kind of natural look with this. This even went over just an old ceramic dish that we weren't using anymore that had fruit. So just did the paint, did a little bit of the plaster, put a piece of the paper in the middle. You can do, you know, framed art if you want. We do a lot of furniture, like I said. A lot of drawer fronts, but this was just a little chair where You know, even if you just take little little pieces or little elements of a piece of furniture, it's a fun way to introduce something that's a little different. And then, of course, like on furniture, this one's on, you know, the top of a little nightstand. And like I said, on drawer fronts. And just to show you the different papers, they really do a nice job with these. They're aged on the back, so they don't just look like solid sheets of paper. But she's got a lot of holiday stuff, and then of course like fun, whimsical, crazy, and then the current like vintage birds and all the botanicals, stuff like that. So this, I think, was the one I used for, very similar for that chair. And you just kind of have to look at what element you want to take, and then you just clip your edges and you start. So they're a fun way to introduce holiday items. Like we just had one of the girls here that took an old sled and did one of those Christmas prints on the sled, and she has it on her front door, which is nice. You know what? You can just speed this up, can't you? Let's do that, because this guy's got to dry for a second. Is that okay? Put it up here. I didn't think it would take that long to dry. Probably good. Okay, we can roll right back into it. Okay. So this is dry enough now. Now if I was doing this at home and not here, of course I wouldn't have the dryer on it. I would just let everything like naturally dry out. It would take probably a couple hours, if that, for it to dry. And you know, it's all just a touch feel thing, just to kind of feel it, see if it's dry. And then like I said, I have a 150 grit paper here. I'm just gonna kind of rough my edges here and there, just to not have it look so perfect again here. You can spend a lot of time doing this, or you don't have to do this at all. If you don't want, you could just go right to putting wax on it, or a sealer. Okay. That's good. Now, with this one, I sealed it, the old one, with a dark wax. And this is a wax we have. It's by American Paint. My favorite wax. It's a natural wax. There's no additives in it. And it just glides on really nice. And the reason I like it is because it'll antique my finish at the same time that I'm kind of gliding it on. And this one's the brown wax. They also have a clear. And I'm just gonna scrub this wax on. And it works nice over these botanical paints. Really, we use it for, American Paint has a chalk paint line that the waxes work really nice over. But you can use them over pretty much anything. So you just scrub it on so you can see how it's going on there. I'll do a couple sections at a time. And then I'm just going to take a rag and I'm just going to wipe it right off. And you just got to get it on. You don't have to be real dainty and particular. Just kind of scrub it on. This is an old beat up thing anyway. And I'll take a rag. I'm just going to wipe it right off. That. So see, it's coming off. Then it gives it that nice aged look. And what I'm going to do up on the top is I'm going to take the clear wax and I'm just going to put a little bit of gold metallic mica in it to do on the top, just so that the image itself doesn't go too brown, because I like the image the way it is. Okay, so this just goes on everything. The waxes are nice. The one thing about the waxes that you can't do is once you put a wax down, if you decide you don't like the color or you want to change it up, you really kind of have to give it a little bit of a scuffing before you would repaint over the wax, because the paints don't like to bond real well to waxes. Okay. There's my guy here. Scrub it on this one. There, we'll see how fast we can go. Okay, get a little bit up here. Does a nice job for rounding up that plaster. How are we for time? Okay. No, I just wanted to make sure. Okay. Okay, and then what I'm going to do on the top is I'm just going to take a little bit of this clear and a little bit of mica, which is just a real fine, it's almost like crushed eyeshadow. And I'm just going to mix it into my wax. And what it does is it creates like a shimmery metallic wax. So it'll give it a little bit of glimmer up on top here, but like I said, it doesn't make it as brown, which is nice. I'm going to actually put it over everything, so when the light hits it, it has a little shimmer to it. So the waxes are nice too, because you can do stuff like that. You can float different colors into it. If I didn't want a brown wax, but I wanted a black wax, I could add black pigment in. If I want silver sparkle, I can add silver mica into it. Okay, so see how that doesn't change it up as much. And I just wipe the excess off. And then that'll take, well, not long to dry. And it'll be good to go. I got everything brushed there, except the back. Okay. So there's the difference right there from, if you remember what we started with. And it looks like he's been there for a while. It doesn't look like we just took a sheet of paper and stuck him on there. And then I thought too, it would have been kind of funny. I wasn't sure if this would work or not, and this could be totally a putz move. But I thought, okay, well, what if like he is a nest, right? Like in that hole. That'd be kind of cool. Do you like that? There, how's that? We even have a little egg there, isn't it? So we'll put that on the front porch with some holly around it, and we'll be perfect for the holidays, right? Anyway, you got to think outside the box sometimes, right? If you don't like that, then you can just pluck it right off. I think I'll put that out by the front door here. Anyway, that wraps today's show. If you like the papers, we have a whole slew of them here. You can get them online as well. They're a couple bucks a sheet, and they're actually a lot of fun. So hope you enjoyed the show, and look for us next month for another DIY Shelby.